Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hazrat Diya radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates further that the people used to gather before the high priest every Sunday when he would deliver lectures to them and advise them. However, when Sunday came, he did not go out to meet the people and remained in his home until the following Sunday. Hazrat Diya radiallahu ta'ala anhu says that he used to meet with the high priest, who would speak to him and ask him many questions. When the next Sunday came, the people again awaited his arrival. However, he did not meet them with the pretext of being ill. This he did for several Sundays, until the people eventually delivered the ultimatum and sent a message to him stating, "You will come to us, otherwise we shall come to you and kill you." We have noted the change in your attitude since the Arab has arrived. The high priest then said to Hazrat Diya radiallahu ta'ala anhu, "Take this letter to your leader. Greet him on my behalf and inform him that I testify that there is none worthy of worship but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Allah's Rasul. I believe in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, accept what he says and follow him, but my people dislike this. Also inform him about what you have seen." He then went to meet the people and they killed him. Some scholars of Hadith have narrated that Heraclius said to Hazrat Diya radiallahu ta'ala anhu, "I swear by Allah that I know that your leader is the sent prophet, and that he is the one we have been waiting for, and who is described in our scriptures. However, I fear that the Romans will take my life. Were it not for this fear, I would have certainly followed him. Go to the high priest and tell him about your leader, for he is higher than me in status and more influential in Rome." When Hazrat Diya radiallahu ta'ala anhu approached the high priest and informed him of matters, he said, "I swear by Allah that your leader is a sent prophet. We recognize him by his description and his name." The high priest then entered his rooms, removed his clothing, and wore white clothing. He then went out to meet the Roman people and testified to the true Shahada. They immediately attacked him and killed him. Thereafter, Heraclius sent for a person from the Tujayb tribe, who had been the leader of the Arab Christians, and said to him, "Get me someone with a good memory who speaks Arabic, so that I may send him to Rasulullah ﷺ with a reply to his letter." The narrator says that it was he who was sent to Heraclius, who handed over to him a letter inscribed on the sternum of an animal. Heraclius then said to the man, "Take this letter to the person, and from everything you hear him say, take careful note of three things. See whether he mentions anything about the letter that he wrote to me. See whether he mentions the night when reading my letter, and look carefully at his back to see for anything that puts you in doubt." The envoy carried the letter to Rasulullah ﷺ in Tabuk and found Rasulullah ﷺ sitting with the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum near a watering place. When he asked for their leader, one of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum pointed Rasulullah ﷺ out to him. The envoy walked up to Rasulullah ﷺ, sat before him and handed over the letter to him. Placing the letter in his lap, Rasulullah ﷺ asked the man, "Which tribe do you belong to?" When he identified himself as a member of the Tanukh tribe, Rasulullah ﷺ asked him, "Do you wish to enter into the religion of your father Ibrahim ﷺ, which is far removed from all deviation and is securely on the straight path?" The envoy replied, "I am an envoy for a nation and follow their religion. I shall not leave their religion until I first return to them." Rasulullah ﷺ then recited the following verse of the Quran: "Verily, O Rasulullah ﷺ cannot guide those whom you love to Islam, but Allah guides whoever He wills. He is best aware of those who are deserving to be rightly guided to Iman." Surah Qasas, verse 56. Rasulullah ﷺ then said, "O my brother from the Tanuf, I have sent a letter to Najashi, but he tore it up. Allah shall therefore tear him and his kingdom apart likewise. I also wrote a letter to your leader Heraclius, who held on to the letter without tearing it up. Therefore, as long as good is destined in his life, people shall continue living in awe of him." The envoy narrates that he said to himself, "This is one of the three things that Heraclius instructed me to take note of." He therefore removed an arrow from his quiver and etched the words on his sheath. Rasulullah ﷺ then handed over the letter to someone on his left-hand side, to which the envoy asked, "Who is your scribe who reads your letters?" "Muawiyah," came the reply. The letter contained the following: Do you invite me to a Jannah, the width of which spans the heavens and the earth, which has been prepared for those who have taqwa? If the Jannah occupies all of this space, then where is the fire? Rasulullah ﷺ exclaimed, Subhanallah. Then where is the night when the day appears? Taking an arrow from his quiver, the envoy etched these words on his sheath. After reading the letter, Rasulullah ﷺ said to the envoy, You are an envoy and have a right over us. If we had anything with us, we would surely have rewarded you with it. But we are travellers whose provisions have been depleted. Then someone amongst the group called out, I shall reward him. He then opened his satchel and brought a set of clothing from Safura, which is a place in Jordan, which he placed in the envoy's lap. When the envoy asked who the donor of the clothing was, he was told that it was Hazrat Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Continuing the report, the envoy says, Thereafter Rasulullah ﷺ asked the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, Who shall entertain the envoy? A youth from the Ansar volunteered for the job and stood up. I stood up with him. When I was leaving the gathering, Rasulullah ﷺ called me back, saying, O brother from the Tanuf. I hastened back until I stood in the very place where I had been sitting before him. Rasulullah ﷺ then removed the shawl from his back and said, Here, come over and do what you have been ordered. I went around to his back and saw the seal of prophethood between his shoulder blades, which resembled the egg of a dove. Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that Hazrat Abu Sufyan radiallahu ta'ala anhu told him that he went to Sham with the trade caravan of the Quraysh during the period when Rasulullah ﷺ had extended a peace treaty to Abu Sufyan and the kuffar of the Quraysh. When they were at a place called Baytul Maqdis, when Heraclius summoned them. When they appeared in his court in the presence of the Roman ministers, Heraclius called for an interpreter. Heraclius then asked, Which of you is closest in lineage to the person who claims to be a prophet? Abu Sufyan replied, I am closest to him in lineage. Heraclius then ordered that Abu Sufyan be brought close to him, while the others should be made to sit behind him. He then addressed the others through the interpreter, saying, I shall ask this man about Rasulullah ﷺ. Point out his lies if he lies to me. Abu Sufyan thought to himself, By Allah, I would have certainly lied had I not feared being called a liar. The first question Heraclius posed was, How is his lineage amongst you? He is of extremely high lineage amongst us, was the reply. Heraclius asked further, Has anyone from amongst you made such a claim before? When Abu Sufyan replied in the negative, the next question was, Were there any kings amongst his forefathers? Abu Sufyan replied, No. Is it the nobles among people who follow him or the weak ones? Abu Sufyan replied, The weak ones. Are his followers increasing or decreasing? Heraclius asked. They are increasing, replied Abu Sufyan. Heraclius then asked, Have any of them turned back to their religion out of displeasure for his religion after entering it? When Abu Sufyan replied in the negative, the next question was, Have any of you accused him of lying before he made his claim? No, came the reply. And has he ever broken a treaty? Came the question. No, replied Abu Sufyan. But we are presently bound by a treaty with him and do not know what he will do. Abu Sufyan says, Besides this, there was nothing else I could add. Heraclius continued, Have you ever fought against him? Yes, replied Abu Sufyan. Then how did you fare? The emperor asked. Abu Sufyan said, Wars are like the bucket of a well between us. Sometimes he defeats us and sometimes we defeat him. Heraclius asked, What does he command you to do? He commands us to worship the one Allah without ascribing partners to him and to forsake what our forefathers said. He also commands us to perform salah, to be truthful, to remain chaste and to join family ties. Heraclius then instructed the interpreter, saying, Tell him that when I asked about Rasulullah's lineage, he maintained that he is of extremely high lineage. Such are the prophets who are of high birth. Then I asked you if anyone had made such a claim of prophethood before him, and you replied in the negative. Had anyone made such a claim before him, I would have said that he is a man aping what was said before him. You again replied in the negative, when I asked whether any of his forefathers were kings. Had there been kings amongst his forefathers, I would have said that he is a man seeking the kingdom of his father. Then I asked you whether any of you had ever accused him of lying before, and you said that none had done so. I realize that it is impossible for a person to abstain from lying about people and then lie about Allah. I then asked you whether it is the nobles among people who follow him or the weak, and you replied that they were the weak ones. These have always been the followers of the prophets. I also asked you whether his followers are increasing or decreasing, and you said that they were increasing. Such is the case with Iman until it is completed. Thereafter, I asked you whether anyone had returned to his former religion out of displeasure after entering into his religion, and you informed me that none had done so. Such is the condition of Iman when it penetrates the depths of the heart. When I asked you whether he ever broke a treaty, you said that he had not. Such are the prophets. They never break their pledges. I then asked you what he commanded, and you said that he commanded you to worship the one Allah without ascribing partners to him, that he forbade you from worshipping idols, and that he commanded you to perform salah, to speak the truth, and to remain chaste. If whatever you say is true, then he shall seize control of the ground I stand on. Although I was expecting his appearance, I had no idea that he would appear among you people. If I knew that I could reach him, I would have burdened myself to do so, and had I been in his presence, I would have washed his feet. He then called for the letter that Rasulullah ﷺ sent with Hazrat Diya radiallahu ta'ala anhu to the chief of Busra, which the chief of Busra has subsequently forwarded to Heracles. The letter read, "In the name of Allah, the Most Kind, the Most Merciful, from Muhammad, the servant and Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to Heracles, the Emperor of Rome. Peace be on the one who follows the guidance. I call you with the invitation of Islam. Accept Islam, and you will live in peace, and Allah shall double your reward. However, should you turn your back, the sin of all your subjects shall be burdened on you. Say, O people of the book, come to unite on a word, that is a matter of belief that is common between us, that is Muslims and you, that we worship none other but Allah, that is we proclaim that we are Muslims and monotheists, that we do not ascribe any as equal a partner to him, and that we do not take each other as gods besides Allah, that is we do not worship any prophet, saint, etc. If they turn away, refusing to accept the proposal, then say, be witness that we are certainly Muslims, that is we have surrendered ourselves to Allah's commands." Surah Al-Imran, verse 64. Abu Sufyan narrates further, after Heracles had spoken and read the letter, there was a lot of noise about, and people started speaking at the top of their voices. It was then that they sent us out. When we were sent out, I said to one of my companions, "The affair of Rasulullah ﷺ has grown so powerful that even the king of the yellow skins, that is the Romans, have begun to fear him." Thereafter, I remained convinced that Rasulullah ﷺ would dominate until Allah blessed me with Islam. Heracles then invited the leading people of Rome to his castle in Hims and had all the doors locked. He then made an appearance and addressed them, saying, "O leaders of the Roman people, do you want to achieve success, good fortune, and keep your kingdom? Simply follow this Nabi." When they heard this, everyone present started to flee like wild camels and headed for the doors, which they found locked. When Heracles noticed their derision and lost hope in their accepting Iman, he instructed his men to bring everyone back. He then said to them, "I told you this only to test your steadfastness in adhering to your religion. I have now witnessed it." They all prostrated before him and were satisfied with him. This was the final stand of Heracles, as he never accepted Islam.